Yeah, so for everybody just joining us, my name's Adam, the owner of Firehouse Training, and also on the board here with the Fire Mitigation Alliance. So again, for those just joining us tonight, like I said before, my name's Adam with Firehouse Training. We got Tom Hawkick here, president of the Fire Mitigation Alliance, Justin Brunner from AI and training software, and Peter Selves here. Peter Selves here from Fire Rain Eco Gel. So again, over the next hour, we're just going to go through some different topics of discussion that I think is important based on the well-rounded group that we have here tonight. In tonight's group, the reason I really enjoy helping run and coordinate these sessions is we have multiple individuals from different parts of either the emergency services, public safety, property managers. We have some emergency managers from across Ontario here tonight. We've got a couple of fire chiefs. We have some individuals in the property management and real estate space as well. So lots of different areas that I think when you see the coordination between emergency services, emergency management, and other urban and rural type environments where we would see either fire emergencies, hazmat, and other instances that need to be mitigated and dealt with. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing what the group discussion is like as we go through some of the content. So for those that are familiar with the Fire Mitigation Alliance, it's a group of companies that have come together to help co-promote and add value to the fire industry and public safety community with different free training programs, as well as the different services that we provide. So I'm the owner of Firehouse Training. We offer industrial fire training services, workplace safety, and fire department training, and a lot of specialty topics that you can't get through the local fire marshal's office. So topics might include high-rise firefighting courses, hazardous materials, lithium-ion batteries, and electric vehicle response, and a lot of industrial fire safety coordination as well. So we have Justin Brunner. Justin, just introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about what you're doing with Dec13.
Name's Justin. Thanks again, guys, for having me out. At Dec13, we've created our Assist platform to aid emergency services in scenario-based training and kind of lighten the load for training officers and chiefs to come up with new and engaging scenarios for their firefighters, basically at all levels, right up to their officer levels and right up to the chief level as well. We're up to now generation 3 in our system, and we're currently nose down, and we're working on generation 4.
Amazing, good stuff. What about yourself, Tom? Tell us a bit about your position with the Fire Mitigation Alliance and Amplicam, as well as some of your built environment stuff you've been working on lately.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Yeah, that's great. This is webinar number 7. We've been
Nice.
running them now for more than a year, and same format that we've been running it with the Fire Mitigation Alliance. Fire Mitigation is a group of companies like you see on the screen here that all provide different, I'd say, non-competing solutions in this ecosystem, and have the goal of reducing and mitigating fire risk and damage. So I'm sort of the guy that manages the website and sort of helps organize these events, and we do live events. We attend trade shows and things like that. So get the word out is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're going to keep doing these sort of every quarter, these types of events, but we'd love to come into organizations and do more training and education. And I also I come to this party as BizDev Vice President of Amplicam, which is a technology that early detects wildfire from a distance so that firefighters can get out on it and attack it before it rages way out of control and costs taxpayers and governments millions and millions of dollars.
Nice.
That's our goal with Amplicam. So take it back to you, Adam.
Good stuff. Peter, tell us about yourself, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I'm Peter South. I'm one of the founders of Fire Rain. We're located in Eastern Ontario. We manufacture the world's only certified 100% bio-based uh, fire protection water additive. It's a hydrogel that verified for use on Class A and Class B fires by UL. So you can use it on the house fire, the vehicle fire, the fuel spill. We've had a lot of success recently with lithium-ion battery fires, both in vehicles and in other power systems. In the chat, eager to spread the word.
Good stuff. No, I appreciate it, guys. So again, good group of companies here tonight that can help out with any of your needs. For example, this morning I did a presentation on hazmat in high-rise buildings for Cadillac Fairview, my old employers. There's a huge need out there where we see a crossover and gap. Justin sees it, Peter sees it, Tom sees it. I know John sees it when he teaches first aid and other fire hose courses. When you're out there, you know there's a gap between what the community knows we do as first responders and what we know that we do as first responders. And that's why I think my goal with the Fire Mitigation Alliance is to kind of shake things up outside of just fire service training and have conversations with people like Tom who barely know how to use a fire extinguisher, right? Okay.
Hey, I put on a couple of bonfires in my life.
There you go. See, I've seen the way you cook on that barbecue. Look out. But
yeah, and the whole concept of the built environment. I mean, from condos to apartments to commercial buildings like office towers. I mean, there's just so much connective tissue that needs to go on with all the various emergency services to firefighters and knowing what to expect and what not to do. And we've been doing a lot of stuff around battery safety and what to do, not to do before, after, during, and all those things. We did a session back in September that was specifically on batteries in the built environment. And that picture that you're seeing, thankfully, hasn't happened here anywhere close. So
again, guys, we'll jump right in. Listen, we got a lot of different experience here. We got aspiring firefighters. We got city managers here. I'm recognizing. We got some engineers. We got firefighters. So again, feel free to jump in. It's about group discussion. When I look at something like this, fire suppression, residential buildings, commercial buildings, we need to think about what our factors are. Overall building construction, right? You saw what happened overseas with that, again, awful high-rise fire with over 150 confirmed dead. You look at what is your water supply like? What is your fire department connections and standpipes look like? Have they been checked? Is there adequate pressures? Is there adequate flows? Are they falling within those fire code standards? And then again, concealed space fires. Now, don't get me started. Even with my position now with the biggest fire department in the city, last night or in the country, last night we were still down at Thorncliffe battling that multi-day fire that is happening between the void space and the walls in the city of Toronto. And it's a challenge right now. They're using lots of different tactics, from foam and water cans to helium and dry ice, you name it. There's lots of tactics that are being looked at. So when we think about these things and the challenges, we need to have answers, and the stakeholders need to be involved. Property managers, security teams, engineers, and others. Using thermal imaging cameras, using chemical detection devices like we were last night to see where that fire is located and how we can combat, what it is we're dealing with. Peter, if I can put you on the spot, in your many years with the fire department before you retired, what are some of the challenges you see from a suppression standpoint and residential, commercial buildings, high rises and things that you think those gaps need to be filled?
Funny you should phrase it that way, because if you go somewhere in a box here, I've got a National Research Council of Canada report on the Great Fire of Toronto from 1904.
Yes.
And some of the stuff that came out of that dealt with setbacks of a high-rise building from the road, the width of roads, essentially access, firefighter access. And that hasn't changed. For a few years, I drove a aerial in uptown Toronto, and you can buy the biggest, best aerial in the world, but where are you going to spot it? Downtown Toronto or downtown anywhere when you've got chock-a-block traffic, people parked everywhere.
Yeah.
How are you going to set your outriggers, and how are you going to spot your ladder for optimum? So that's just one. There's a lot of cooperation has to occur from the planning stage right through to responding to the event. And it involves equipment, apparatus, code enforcement, training, more command training.
Yep.
Don't get me started. We'll be here all night.
So think about this. We had an incident, okay? This a few years ago, and I worked downtown. If anybody's familiar with Maple Leaf Square, where the Toronto Maple Leafs tend to lose every weekend, play hockey every weekend. Basically, somebody climbed up to the top of one of those cones and was stuck. So we had to send an aerial ladder in there to try to get them down. Well, here's the problem. When we staged our aerial apparatus in that tight area, we thought that we could park the aerial apparatus up as close as we could to the front foyer of the Air Canada Centre. Here's the problem: underground parking, subway systems. We realized, based on engineering, we should not park that truck up on that curb area above where that underground parking is. We need to do everything we can to use those outriggers and keep them out as far enough away and onto the roadway as possible because of that added weight. Something we didn't think about. So our reach with our ladder wasn't ideal. Like, again, that comes down to planning and working with property managers for staging of apparatus. Again, the water supply issues is a big thing. Understanding if you have good pressure, good volume. Peter, in your opinion, with your Fire Rain Eco Gel, what are you seeing as a benefit to using that product? And are you getting adequate pressures and volumes to use your product appropriately with the fire apparatus?
Well, the pressures and volumes, it really comes down to how do you proportion the concentrate into your fire stream? How are you currently doing it with whatever agent you're using? The only time that pressure or volume, pressure really, becomes an issue is if you're using an inline eductor, in which case you've got to make the minimum pressure on the intake side of the eductor, which is usually 200 psi. Some pump operators are reluctant to give a handline 200 psi without realizing that 30% of that is going to disappear in the 6-inch travel through the eductor body. There's a training aspect there, but inline eductors notwithstanding, there really isn't an issue with pressure. The advantages of using the gel is twofold. One, you're going to get a tighter pattern, a more coherent pattern, because the drops are a little larger. They got more momentum, so you're going to get less drift in the wind. And also, regardless of pattern, you're going to get about 20% further reach. So if you're going for a straight stream, you can add 20% to that straight stream. Now, if you're dealing with a master stream off the tip of an aerial, and you can go another 20% further, that's a really good tactical advantage.
No, I like it. I like it. Eric Lucko, if I could put you on the spot, my friend, I know you have a background in emergency management. When we're looking at this next slide here with the unified command, the emergency management aspect of a large-scale community fire or event, what's your experience been like, whether it was with your previous life, working for the province, or now your position now with a major municipality? Anything that you want to add from an emergency management standpoint where you see gaps between fire department strategies, tactics, and what we would like to relay you or what you'd like to relay to us based on this coordination?
Yeah, unified command. I mean, from an emergency management perspective, let the experts do what the experts do.
Yes.
So if you've got, your fire chief, you've probably got fire prevention, you've got, their building, code experts, their suppression teams. Let them do that. That's not for us to stick our nose in. Let the fire department do what the fire department does.
Okay.
Unified command. I mean, stick 3 fire chiefs in a cardboard box and shake it and see what happens. I mean,
Yeah.
whoever's got the least number of black eyes gets to lead unified command. So, I'm watching, intently what's going on in Toronto with that building because it's such a unique situation. I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
You're going to see some significant changes to the building code afterwards.
Big time.
And from an engineering, like, civil engineering is my background from that component. I'm watching intently to see what happens with the building. As for that, from an emergency management perspective, from those I've talked to in the Red Cross and City of Toronto, they're in a support function right now. So you've got, thousands of people out of a home. They've opened up sheltering. They've mobilized the Red Cross to try and assist a lot of these people. There's only so many hotel rooms to go around. So that's where the emergency management component is picking up right now. Now they'll play a different role in the recovery, but right now, again, let the emergency services do their part, and emergency management is picking up that component, well, like coordinating the Red Cross, coordinating shelters, coordinating placement of people in hotels and whatnot. Because the reality is, as you fight the fire, you've got thousands of people who are homeless, and it could be days, weeks, months. We don't know right now.
And we're talking about the Thorncrest
Yep,
scenario, right?
that's
Thorncliffe,
correct.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, could you expand, so there's people on this call that aren't necessarily in Toronto here. Can you give a background as to what's happened and what's happening, and maybe what you think caused it at this point? Because it seems like it's a different animal, and we're having trouble solving it, which I think for most people we don't know why.
I gotta watch what I say. I mean, it's an active event, and we can't we
Okay.
can't assume anything, right? But
Right.
right now, just as a whole, and because this is recorded too, basically, if you look at what's taken place there, there's a compressed board between two buildings called 10 Test, and I had a chance to see it firsthand. It's like you take particle board, but it's even more compressed and more dry than anything you've ever seen, right? The thing is it's water resistant, so water just tends to bead off a bit. It's not like wood that would soak up. So the challenge is when you're pouring water down in that area, is it getting to the areas where there's a smoking cigar, so to speak, right? Remember, it's a smoldering fire. It's not a flaming fire. So the only reason that fire department members know that that fire continues to burn is because of CO and other air monitoring readings that we're getting within the building. So continually adding foam or water into these tight spaces, it's very difficult, even with the cameras that we have, to get inside to see what is taking place within that fire and if it's continuing to burn. So that's what's making it quite a challenge. You're trying to minimize the demolition side, but also trying to maximize firefighting and minimize water damage. So it's a very, very tight space. We're talking less than 2 to 3 inches, right?
And that building is a public housing building, one of the biggest in Canada,
I don't
probably
know if it
right
is.
now.
It seemed a little bit nicer than community housing, but I'm not.
I don't think it is. I
No,
don't think
No?
it is. It's
no.
private residences,
Private
Is it?
apartments,
resident. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. All right. But it's a huge complex by the Science Center in Northeast Toronto, and I think there's
it's right
four
there,
buildings.
right in East York. Yeah. I mean, if
Yeah.
it's community housing, I didn't know they provided granite countertops and marble floors, but it's interesting.
Okay. All right. So maybe not.
Every unit's different. Every unit's different. It has its own
Yeah.
set of challenges. Peter knows this from being in the city. Johnny knows this from 325. Johnny, what's been your experience so far in the coordination for an event this large? Not just this event, but other events that you see from your time in the downtown core.
I mean, a ton. It's a lot of moving parts, right? Like, especially with a building like that, you're talking a lot as we're seeing now with the Thorncliffe fire, right? A lot of displacement depending on how big, obviously, the size of the fire is, right? In this case here, it's going up vertically throughout the entire building. I can attest and say myself that I've been to the building a couple times already to kind of see, do some air monitoring and taking thermal imaging levels and all that sort of stuff from floor to floor. And it's not really tenable for the people that it's the walls are facing towards the fire.
Yeah.
But they want everybody out of the building in case structurally something there is an issue because the rest of the hallways aren't really that bad, Adam. And I mean,
Yeah.
you can attest to that. I think we can safely say that, from our professional standpoints, there's not really much of an issue there. It's just that I think from a structural standpoint, that's why they want everybody out of the building. But to kind of go back to your original question on what we're seeing out of this, I guess it depends on the scale of the incident. We can utilize stuff like TTC, right, the our public transit, right, or Metrolinx, or
Absolutely.
again, emergency management's been called before. We're using HUSAR more often now than I think I've ever seen. Right, for certain buildings, or especially like stuff that's underground, high angle, low angle rescues, that sort of stuff, right? You can use stuff, like our utilities, right? We're using Enbridge, every other day, right? Or Toronto Hydro or Davy Trees or whoever it is to,
Back
engineers,
trucks
yeah,
for extra the water damage and stuff.
yeah, and it could be stuff as, as simple as a fire or a flood or anything like that, or it could be as something as again, as catastrophic as, a big fire, a structural collapse, or personally, I can attest to this. I was at a call for a trench rescue that they actually had to call in a one of those dirt vacuum trucks in order to
Yeah.
suck the dirt out, right? So it's just, and I didn't even think of that, right? Because we were just hand bombing for the
And
first half
that needs
hour.
to be an initial response. Those are the
Yeah.
gaps we're talking about, everybody. Johnny sees it. I see it. Peter's seen it over the years. We need to make these calls early. We need to understand what the requirements are within the infrastructure of your call. So I'll give a quick example, kind of an offshoot. When I was at Cadillac Fairview today, we're talking about carbon monoxide, natural gas leaks. You're talking about that familiarization. Don't just think of familiarization for fire or hazmat, but what is an acceptable level for someone to live in and someone to work in? Take something as simple as carbon monoxide. The time weighted average in TWA in Ontario, according to the Health and Safety Act, is 25 parts per million over an 8-hour period at intermittent areas in a workplace of being able to deal with carbon monoxide. Hit or miss, whether it's a forklift driving by, maybe working in an automotive factory or warehouse where there's products and equipment coming and going. You will get those levels. The average parking garage underground is between 5 and 15 levels of CO parts per million each and every day. But in a home, your parts per million should be a 0. And I don't know if many of you knew this, but your carbon monoxide alarm at home will go off at 9 parts per million. Firefighters are instructed to put on an air pack at 25 parts per million or 30, depending if you're in Canada or the US. The reason I'm telling you about these numbers is these are the challenges that a fire chief, an emergency manager, a community leader will need to know to make the best decision for the public when it comes to public safety. Do you evacuate or protect in place? The levels that we're currently seeing in the high rise in question are approximately 0 in the hallways and in the apartments. But what about behind the walls? 2, 3, 10, 15. Now what do? You know there's an issue, but is the issue mitigated? It's no different than we clear a hazmat call, everybody. What is the air quality that's acceptable before you let it go back to the property manager, the property owners? Now, Eric, I might put you on the spot again, my friend. I know you're not a firefighter per se, but what level of training from a public safety standpoint do you have dealing with air monitors and post-fire investigations and suppression tactics to allow the community to get back to normal?
Putting me on the spot's a good question. So again, that's left to the fire department for their own monitoring.
True.
From an emergency management perspective, we're so high level, it's nil, to be frank with you.
Okay.
We don't get into that. Now we have, and not to sound the alarm, we have equipment for radiological monitoring, that kind of stuff, but it sits and collects dust. There's no reason for us to pull that kind of stuff out unless needed. But we have our fire department here in Guelph has a hazmat team, and even engines. I mean, they get called out regularly for carbon monoxide alarms and whatnot, and they have their own sensors, and we have protocols in place. And again, not trying to pass the buck, but those are the subject matter experts. Those are the people that respond to this, and they're the ones that are trained to handle it. Again, in the emergency management perspective, we're a little bit more high level, and so we wouldn't get into the trenches where we're out there doing the testing inspection. If we do need to do it on occasion, we've got our array of consultants or other agencies that we can pull from.
And that's fair, and that is why I asked. And I'm going to give a couple examples here. The vinyl chloride incident with the rail car in East Palestine, Ohio, that evacuated thousands within the community. The wildfires in LA, where emergency managers were saying that the air is safe, air quality is safe. My good friends at CP and CN Rail, who I've had the chance to participate in training, and I've invited them to Firehouse training events, where they say, even though we're the air monitoring experts, they have the equipment to mitigate and air monitor. They're not the authority having jurisdiction. CP and CN Rail, although they're the experts, cannot make the decision on behalf of fire chiefs and emergency managers on whether community members should be displaced or come back to their homes. We saw that in Hawaii in the wildfires. I had a chance to meet with their emergency manager when I was in California listening to their session. The term safe is very crucial that we be careful with using that term. What were you going to say there, Eric?
If we activate our emergency operations center, even if it's a partial activation or something informal, we're not making statements like that unless we have that information from the experts. And again, part of Part of our job is preparedness and prevention beforehand, but we've made those relationships. You're absolutely right with our local rail teams, CN, CP. We have our own rail team, and not just them, like local airports, local industry, so that if we're going to make a statement saying something is safe or not safe, we're not doing that just on a whim. We have those experts in the room talking about that, and Ministry of Environment has we have access to their atmospheric testing vehicle that could be out here in a matter of hours.
That's a good point.
So all those aspects they need to be compiled. That's why we have an emergency operations center, so you can take all those internal, external agencies, stakeholders, and put them all together so that we do have the correct information.
It's
Yeah.
huge, right? You go back to the pre-incident planning. What are your community risk assessments? High-rise buildings, commercial factories. So for a fire department standpoint, when we go in, we'll look for water supply, we'll look for exits and egress. We'll talk about fire attack planning or where we're going to stretch and lay a fire hose. Can we use foam? Can we not use foam? Things like that. Or eco gel, for example, right? So when you're looking at these things, we need to kind of have a plan in place that we can work with individuals like Eric in emergency management, fire department chiefs, property managers, so everyone understands what that game plan can be. So big challenges there. When you're looking at the overall risks, right? We know there's higher fire loads. We see an increase in EVs, e-bikes, battery energy storage systems affecting communities. The wildland urban interface, right? Where we're getting wildland into the suburban areas, stuff we haven't seen in many years, right? The aging infrastructure and the vulnerable populations. So a few months ago, when I was up in Limerick Township, I went to just a community event training day where the local ministry was there doing the wildland firefighting demonstrations. And that's a whole other animal when you have wildland encroaching in on urban interface. Tom, if you don't mind talking a bit about your Amplicam product and how this new technology is being integrated, not just into the wildland industry, but maybe we can see this in the battery space, energy storage systems, and other fire risks. What's the Amplicam product all about when it comes to dealing with wildland events?
Well, there's two worlds that Applicam works in. One is what we call far field, and one is near field. They're both in the external environment, so they're not within a building. The far field is detecting wildfire from up to 30 kilometers away on radius above the tree line. The other one that I think is more relevant to this discussion is the near field one,
Yeah.
which is really picking up on within about 700 meters of an AI camera that detects light, heat, uh, um, air quality, vehicles and people that shouldn't be in spots at 4 in the morning, and things like that. But looking for exceptions, I guess, is the world. But to be very able to detect early on what's going on. So if a house is in an area where the alarm systems for their houses are not necessarily always working, it could pick up on a house overheating, or in a forestry environment where a pile of logs, one end of it starting to overheat, so it could combust at any time. We're going to pick up on it way before it's ever at the combusting level, all within that 700 sort of meter radius.
Oh, it's a big thing. And when you see these things, we know with battery energy storage systems in communities at Firehouse Training, we got a few phone calls already from fire departments who are cautious about having some of these battery energy storage systems pop up in their communities, especially in Northern Ontario, from Thunder Bay to Muskoka, as far down as Windsor. So again, I know it's the treat of the week, and I know many of you probably have questions, but when you're looking at lithium-ion batteries and electric vehicle hazards, you guys can see the screen, right? You see it on the EV hazards. Johnny, if I can ask you, have you been to a lot of e-bike events lately? Have you been to some underground parking garage incidents? What's it been like since you've been downtown the last few months dealing with this massive increase in battery fires?
Yeah, Adam. I wouldn't say not as much the parking garage level stuff. There's, again, maybe that's excuse me, just a product of where I'm working with a lot of like high rise and apartments and a lot of, maybe government housing, but there's a lot of e-scooters, e-bikes that are being held inside people's apartments, like in their units, where they're using, the aftermarket chargers, or, and whether that's for their bikes or their cycles or their, the powered I guess pedal bikes or whatever they call them as well, cell phones, like all these different battery operated products that they might have,
For sure.
tend to heat up. They leave them, they go out for the day, they come back, and now their place is an inferno, right? So we are seeing it more and more often. I'd say we get a good fire like that, maybe once or twice a month, right, on average. And our shift won't necessarily see it all the time, but it will happen in our area that it's occurring. It's a pretty decent constant, or in storage spaces like in back garage alleyways, storage spaces and all that, where people are storing these types of vehicles. And is this a product of damage and overheating and secondary charging station cables and all that sort of stuff? There's definitely more of that than I think we ever really seen in my time on the has.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yep.
Peter, when we're seeing these battery events, what are you finding now with your EcoGel product? Is there an opportunity there to at least be utilized to combat it, whether it's in high rise, mid rise, or even any other events?
Well, the main thing that people are realizing is a thermal runaway is not a fire in a traditional fire triangle sense. A couple of years ago, the strategies were different tools to try to penetrate the battery case and get some kind of water or agent inside the battery. That's turned out not to be well advised, because you're probably going to do more damage to the system and propagate the fire. So the shift has gone to letting the thing burn out and protecting exposures. And that's where we're focusing our attention, is the stick and stay property of the viscous gel on the adjacent exposures.
No, and again, we have to have strategies. We have to have tactics. That's working with the property managers and others to know what these risks are. Let's take something as simple as the smoke. The chemical gas that comes off of the smoke from these thermal runaway events is small metal particulates. Studies are now showing with FSRI and TEEX down in Texas that the metals are not coming out of our gear. They're not coming out of your clothing. One or two gulps of that chemical smoke will cause cancer or cause respiratory distress like you've never seen before. So we need to take that into consideration when we're creating strategies and tactics. Dealing with property managers, is the HVAC system going to be controlled in a high-rise building? Is it going to be controlled in a factory? When I was at the gold mine last week doing some training with their ERT teams, they didn't even know who to call when it came to dealing with facilities management to turn on or turn off certain systems within that building. These are huge issues when dealing with the toxic smoke. The use of fire blankets, to not use fire blankets, specialty nozzles to get into areas that might be very tight to get into, and then of course managing the reignition risks. Do we do air monitoring after fires? I'm typically not a fan of that because we saturate our electrochemical sensors. However, for a hazmat event, I'm all for it. For a battery event, we need to see if there's any off-gassing from that hydrofluoric acid gas that might still be occurring, even if there is or is not a fire. What about the incident that Marty and I responded to yesterday? I think Marty's on the chat right now too. We went to a Mach-E that was in a collision. First thing Marty grabbed when he got off the truck was that thermal imaging camera to do an assessment of that battery underneath. He wasn't asked to do that by the captain. He just knew that that needed to be done because of the impact to the thermal cells and the battery itself. So these are things that, again, we might know as firefighters if you've taken specialty training. Property managers don't know what's happening in an underground parking garage. They don't understand that the amount of water coming out of one sprinkler head, whether it's 10 or 15 Culligan jugs of water that come out of one head, is not going to be enough to combat the heat from an electric vehicle fire. We need to continue these discussions. Eric probably sees it in his community. Andrew probably sees it with the city buildings that he's worked in and has ventured into recently. These are things that we find during these discussions. We assume that people have a plan, but they really don't. So what I think we might do here, Justin, you got a bit of a scenario here that you might want to throw at the group. Tell everyone a bit about how your Dec13 program works and what scenario you're going to throw at the group. And then as a whole, we'll have a discussion here and we'll light up the chat with some things that we could do to manage an event. What's the scenario tonight?
So tonight, assist It's not liking us too much.
Oh,
It's gonna give us a run for our money here.
okay.
Okay, so we've got a mobility scooter fire inside a 10-story assisted living facility.
Hmm.
We are not aware of total number of occupants that are still inside.
Got it.
The fire is on the third floor. We have compromised windows in that unit. Smoke is billowing from that window. The structure is surrounded by other residential buildings as well. It's a high density area, so we have tight access and egress points to our building. Main entrance is currently blocked by our good friends, the police. Their vehicle is currently in the way.
Of course
We've
it
got
is.
several we've got several bystanders outside, so we are seeing crowds. Visibility, smoke is pouring out into the third floor hallway, into the one stairwell as well. We have reports of aggressive fire in that unit, Unit 301. Because this is an assistive living facilities, we are going to encounter locked doors on many of the floors. And what else is it? Oh, of course, it's minus 16 degrees outside, and we're dumping people out into the streets.
That's Celsius, right?
Yeah. Do we want to go Fahrenheit, Tom?
That would be really cool.
Okay, we have FDC connection on our Alpha side. First responding unit, we have an engine with five assets responding. We have second due. We have an aerial. It is 4 minutes out. We have additional law enforcement. They are 6 minutes out.
Might be about
And
10 minutes out if Johnny Kasulis is driving that aerial from 325.
Listen.
And then EMS, first responding bus, will be 6 minutes out as well.
I like it. Is that it, Justin? Can I give some thoughts?
Yeah, we can start with that, and then I can start throwing wild cards at us,
Please.
and then our size ups.
So things we want to consider. You said this is on the third floor, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Corner
so again,
unit.
Sorry, third floor, and what was that?
Corner unit.
Corner unit. Good. So again, when I'm thinking from a fire standpoint, this is good for the aspiring firefighters in here. We know that when we roll up, either with our pumper aerial, we are going to send a minimum of 2 to 3 crews in to start that initial investigation and attack. Now, remember, fire crews, typically, if it's 5 floors or below, we're going to take the stairwells. So we need to keep in mind that when we go up the stairwells with our high-rise kits, one of those stairwells might be contaminated. So our ability to typically do an apartment stretch or a stairwell stretch, those are the two stretches that we train in Toronto and where we're going to lay out our hose, could be compromised from having a dirty stairwell. So whether it's going on air and choosing a standpipe hose cabinet at another level, a floor or two below that fire, is going to be an option. Even if we don't know the extent of what that fire is, we do want to consider having that charged hose line before entering either the contaminated stairwell or the contaminated hallway. Now, I want to play devil's advocate here. And again, this comes from one of my mentors, Brent Brooks at High Rise Firefighting. Now, think about this. We have smoke-filled units and smoke-filled hallways. Sorry, smoke-filled apartment hallways and smoke-filled stairwells. Do we really need to open up all those units on adjacent floors to let people out to evacuate? Or if it's a newer building, do we let them protect in place, rely on the smoke management systems in the building, and keep them at bay away from the smoke? See, remember, every time we open up a door or a window in a stairwell, let's say someone opens up their apartment door and that window's open, what do we add to that apartment hallway? What do we add to that stairwell to help that fire grow? What do we add, everybody? Oxygen. So you might be better off minimizing our so-and-so rescue with our firefighters and focus more on the fire perspective. What are your thoughts on that, Johnny, for your first in crews to go towards the fire as opposed to start opening doors and contaminating everybody's apartment with this deadly hydrofluoric acid gas smoke?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're going to be on fire attack regardless. I think
Yep.
from what Justin was saying, it was aggressive fire and smoke coming out of the unit. So you're going to be on suppression status anyway, but there's no reason really If doors are already closed, within that hallway, there's no reason to, start knocking on doors and opening them
Yes.
up and exposing everybody. If it's minus, 16 outside, and even with the floors above and below, it's a shelter in place thing. It's not, everybody evacuate unless there's structurally something wrong. It's a corner unit, so it's going to be self-vending probably from, a Bravo Charlie or Alpha Bravo side or something, depending on where it's situated in the building. And you're going to be doing that. Having the building code the way it is right now and the way buildings are designed. If we're talking, I think it was a newer build, Justin.
This one is 2011.
Yeah, so newer enough build where the doors are going to be rated for heat resistance up to, I think it's like about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So in that respect, we don't need to necessarily worry about that. There's no direct fire impingement on any of those doors. It's just smoke migration. Even if the doors stay closed, there's little to really no exposure of those units
Exactly.
from smoke in the hallway anyway. So as long as they stay closed, that's fine. The first, 2 to 3 crews that are going in there doing the hose stretch, being a primary line and possibly a secondary line, which again, depending on the department that you're talking about, if we're using the 65 blue hose or not,
Hmm.
if you have your primary line and then a backup line or a primary line and a secondary line, because there are differences obviously with that, then that's, they're going to be busy doing that, right? That's your first initial is going to be the suppression. You're going to have your lobby control doing your lobby stuff. Police is yeah, maybe they're at the front of the building. Maybe they're doing their stuff as well. Being at minus 16 outside, what's our water supply like?
Yeah.
Also, right? So you also have to, be aware, even from the driving standpoint, of the first, 2 or 3 trucks in. Do we have a hydrant, right? Or, do we have a good working FDC
Hmm.
connection, providing it's obviously it's a tall enough building, which I think it is in this case, that it's going to be working. If not, then we're going to have to do an improvised through the first floor, right? So, and if police are in our way, we can try and get them to move. But if they don't move, then, we're going to have to do some stretching of some lines of some sort, whether it's high vol or, whatever it is, a 65 to, if we need to do that, improvise. So there's a lot of stuff with the first 3 trucks that, you're going to have to be considering, um, anyway, aside just from the smoke migration. But all in all, I think going back to your question, Adam, is, we don't need to open up doors. We don't need to,
Hmm.
start doing any of that. Use the stairwell if we can find it. That is the non-issue. It's not having any smoke migration. We can try, the pressurizing the stairwell that has that issue afterwards once,
Yes.
that fire attack is underway and all that sort of stuff, and we're kind of almost done and the agent is applied and all that fun stuff.
So remember, bigger picture here, everybody, especially for the emergency managers here and others. Fire department members may still be old school and will want to check on tenants and open up doors and windows to let smoke out, like, the kind of fight fires the old way. But we need to understand the pressurization side of things. Fire goes from areas of high pressure to low pressure. So closing doors rather than opening them, but also getting property managers involved. Smoke management systems turned on, HVAC systems turned off. A fire department member or property manager going to the fire pump room to make sure the fire pump is functioning properly. Maybe going to a riser system to see what pressure is like in the sprinkler systems that are affected in that sprinkler zone. Is the fire alarm zone that we initiate in full alarm? And what I mean by that, is it a first stage alarm as an alert tone, or is it a second stage alarm for a full evac? A quick example would be this. If you have a fire on the 15th floor, the full alarm might only happen for the 16th and 14th floors. If it is a lower grade fire, maybe the entire building is in evacuation. So every system's different, and these are things that we need to think about. It really, really is. Justin, you want to throw an input in there?
So fire attack team is on 3rd floor pushing the hallway, and we have a resident come out of their room 303.
Well, the residents out, are they?
Yep. He's gone for a tour. Um, and let's throw in, we've got a wind shift as well. And now the wind to shift direction is pushing smoke back into the unit, not pulling smoke out of the unit.
Sounds like Aerial 325 needs to do a rescue. What do you think, Johnny?
Do you say any reports of people inside that unit there, Justin? That 301
We have
unit?
no reports of anyone in the unit.
Okay, so the ladder can still be set up because that's part of our SOG anyway, to have at least one ladder set up ready for some sort of deployment. But in this case here, smoke going back in the unit, this is sounding like 200 Wellesley all over again. Just with the different wind shifts and the way that's kind of pushing stuff back into the hallway. So to be fair, I wasn't there. I wasn't, part of that whole thing, but I heard plenty of horrific stories of it. I think the direction that still needs to be done is obviously we still need to do suppression in this case. However, the door management has to be like super critical. Like there needs to be somebody at that door, damn near almost closing it on the hose in order to, kind of, close and make compartmentalize that fire. Because if it's pushing it back in, and we're going to be getting probably close. I would imagine probably to even a flashover situation with all that oxygen being pushed back into that unit. Yeah, that could get hairy pretty quick.
Lots to think about there for sure.
Now, 3 floors up, is it possible to hit it from the yard?
With our 65, yeah, I mean, I think you definitely could with enough pressure, but with that game like that, but that's well, that's a game-changing factor though, because crews are already inside. So, you know, based on maybe the first two in captains, do they make that call possibly to say, what, we're going to retreat and this is now going to go defensive, from 3 floors up, or, it's hard to say without actually looking at what's going on. At least in my case, I'm a very visual person in that way. But I feel like this could go. But then again, you said it's a high rise,
Yeah, 10-story.
10-story. Yeah. So to go defensive on a high rise like that for one unit, I just don't feel like it's realistic. I think with the amount of hose that we have, or sorry, the hose, the water that we can throw and the volume that we can throw it at, even if the whole apartment is, let's say 90% fully involved, we can still do a lot of damage as far as that's concerned. It's just that's pushing a lot of smoke in.
Yeah.
You need good hose management skills and water management skills in order to do that. And yeah, I mean, if there is possibly, hitting it hard from the yard as well, that's fine. Just, let the crews be aware that you are throwing water from the outside too, right? We can do a deflection piece, right? Off from ground level up into the ceiling of, let's say it's just a family room, right? And we have that improvised kind of sprinkler coming down off of the ceiling, right? While other crews are going in there doing their search and fire suppression from the inside. So yeah, defensive, maybe it's the wrong thing for me saying that, but as far as being maybe a little bit more aggressive and going from the inside and outside, I think that's maybe a better possibility.
Yeah, and I don't know if many of the aspiring firefighters know about those options, right? We have great reach of stream with some specialty nozzles that we may look to attack fires from the outside so you don't have to make entry into those units. We use an indirect attack. We'll keep the doors closed and help manage the fire from the outside while letting firefighters, do work within the hallway to either ventilate smoke or maybe perform rescues, but keeping that unit door closed where the actual fire is. We actually struggle with this a lot. When we go into units where there might be a fire or where we assume there's a fire and we walk into a high-rise building, we hear, oh, we have no alarm sounding. Now, what does that tell me with my experience on the fire department? There's still probably a fire up there, but it's not inside the unit. It's on the balcony. The door is closed. So now we're trying to find out what unit is on fire, or sorry, what balcony is on fire, just from getting calls over 911 when we're not getting any alarm conditions on our panel, which makes it very challenging. And I've seen fire crews start breaking doors from the top down while trying to find a fire. Now tell me, why do crews start breaking doors from the top down where they encounter smoke? What would be the reason for that? Where does smoke usually travel? To the top. Yep. Now, my good pal, Juicy Joe Pereira, and I were on a call years ago, and we had a fire where the crew started breaking doors on the 11th and 12th levels. Turned out the fire was a garbage fire in the below grade P1 level. Can anybody here tell me why the crews were breaking the doors on the 10th and 11th floor? And how did we find out where that fire location was while crews were chasing smoke on the upper levels of that mid-rise or high-rise building? Tell me where I would have found additional information to tell me the extent of where that fire is traveling and not just the smoke. If you're in a high rise, what do we really need to rely on? And typically in our fire department, we always keep someone stationed at.
We were looking at the alarm panel.
Got to look at the alarm panel.
Yeah.
Got to scroll down. You'll see multiple heats going off, multiple smokes, different levels. And we noticed that there was nobody by the panel that night. So when we were on our particular assigned apparatus, I think we were like the 10th or 12th truck there. Joe, who's pretty good at reading panels, he's a fire alarm technician. We went over and started scrolling down, and he said, "Look at all these alarm conditions in the basement." And he was right. Smokes, heats, flame detectors. And that's where the fire was. It was in the garbage room. So again, these things happen, and crews are chasing smoke and smells instead of activating and realizing where those alarm conditions are coming from as part of that initial investigation. And that's a big part of the training we do at Firehouse. We train emergency managers, we train property managers, security guards, and how to really read and utilize some of those fire alarm panels. John, in your experience in the last few months since you've been downtown, I bet you're looking at fire panels now 5 times as much as you did before working at our station in the north.
Yeah, a ton more. Like I try and make it a habit if I'm not going up with the crew. Like if we're let's say second or third and we're doing the lobby panel stuff there, I'll just kind of like stand beside my captain and just kind of see because I know at some point if I'm an acting captain, I'm going to be doing the same stuff, right? So I've already started to kind of pay attention and listen and watch how the panels are being constructed and laid out in the whole bed and it's interesting to see. I don't have a ton of experience, let's say, like as a background for it. All my experience that I have is through operations-based
Sure.
firefighting. But I mean
Sure.
that's for the general knowledge. I mean I think that's really what you would need.
Ooh.
But yeah, seeing it 5 times more now than I did before, it's definitely interesting, and it's amazing how some buildings are unfortunately neglected.
Big
Um,
time.
for further alarm panel maintenance and security that don't know how to do a reset or they're not aware of the building layout, and then so you ask well where is wing G, right? If it's a building you're not familiar with or you don't go to a lot, or maybe you're not working at your normal hall for the day, and they're like I have no idea, so now you're just relaying this to the captain um and crew that's going to investigate. It's just like it's stairway G or hallway G, but we don't like I don't know where that is, right? So you're looking at these different things, and maybe you do, maybe you don't. It just depends on again the security that's there, the alarm panel, and how well that's maintained. Sometimes they'll have a fault just because, and now they have to go onto a bypass mode, or
Yeah.
the crews there, the security crews have to do a fire watch until the alarm tech is.
So, as a property manager or safety manager in one of these buildings, what are they not doing generally in those situations? What needs to be done to get them to be useful when you show up?
Well, having the keys ready, I think
Keys,
is
yeah.
huge. Yeah, right. Like in the fire alarm, the panel box, right, are there the firebox. Sometimes we can't get access to them, so that's one, and then we end up breaking that glass in order to get access to it. Um, and then just even having a regular maintenance log, so we know, for example, okay, well, this was maintained last month, so we know that somebody's actively looking at this panel, right? To some extent, whether it's annually or biannually or whatever it is. Um, other stuff could be, for example, um, construction. So construction in buildings, when there's stuff going on, like for example, sanding, woodwork, anything that's happening at any floor level, any P1, P2, whatever levels that could be happening. A lot of the time, property managers won't let uh, our communications know or the alarm tech company
And they
know.
don't bypass it.
They don't put it on a bypass, and
Yep.
then they'll start triggering the alarms to say, hey, there's an active fire here, there's active this, there's a whatever, and or a heat detection, but it's actually the room is just getting very hot from all the wood cutting, or the
Us. Yeah.
HVAC unit is on and whatever. Maybe the building's fully under construction and it's brand new, or maybe it's under just some sort of renovation. And again, they forget to, call our comms. They forget to call the alarm tech companies and say, hey, we need to put this on bypass. We have work being done. So if something does happen, we will directly call 911 to you. Don't believe kind of what our alarm system is saying at this point. So there needs to be some sort of organized communication in that way as well, Tom, that needs to be done more.
Yeah,
I
good.
should say, right? It does happen. I do see it, we do see it periodically as generally throughout the city, but I wish it would happen more. That's all.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the awareness level training at the end of the day, whether it's a property manager, the local fire department, communicating to them, what the procedure is to put a fire alarm in bypass or other considerations within that building. That's where those gaps happen, and it'll make or break a fire event, right? You look at the city of Brampton, for example. They allow their property managers to physically turn on the smoke management systems if there's a fire alarm, if it's not already automatically activated. And most of the time it is automatic. But again, having the chance to train them and understand that that is an important part of fighting a fire and isolating certain areas with smoke management is important. While I go to other properties or industrial facilities and they don't even understand that consideration. So big issues there. Anything else there, Justin, for a final input as we kind of finish up here tonight?
No, I think we did fairly well. We seem to have saved everybody and their cat.
I like it. I like it. What are your thoughts, everybody, just on tonight's topics? I mean, we went through a few different things. We talked a bit about the high-rise stuff, the batteries. I mean, at the end of the day, there's some challenges there. Does anybody have any questions? Well, we got a bunch of different subject matter experts on the call when it comes to dealing with the batteries, the property management regulations now for fire safety and smoke training requirements, things like that. Anything kind of come to mind?
Yeah, I got something.
Yeah,
Adam.
Peter.
Um, I was really glad that I think it was John pointed out the similarity to was it 200 Wellesley?
Oh yeah, that was years
Yeah, I
ago.
mentioned, 200 Wellesley. Yeah.
Yeah, but because of the potential for the wind shift to create a real problem. Um, I've got no. I'm not. I don't say I absolutely have a problem with uh, mixed strategies there.
Okay.
But if you employ a large flow of water from the outside while you got people on the inside, you really better be controlling access to that unit.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so that's one thing. I mean, under ideal conditions, you it, you get in the hallway and you push the fire out, right? But we don't always work in ideal conditions. So 200 Wellesley is a case study on for this scenario. But another one would be Two Forest Laneway
That was a bad one.
for a couple of reasons. One being it's bloody cold outside, and you're going to want people are going to want to evacuate. But the real killer, and I mean that literally, there was the fatalities were found floors above the fire floor and in the stairwells, because they were not managed. The the movement, the shelter in place, was not managed quickly enough. Technology was different, right? They didn't have necessarily the same kind of um, uh, communications strategies to the different floors and everything else. But
Right.
people make what they believe are rational decisions based on the information they have. And those people were going up to the roof because obviously that's where the helicopter is going to be to rescue you, right? Because that's the information that the people have.
It's true.
So, yeah, and they died. So, but you hit on all of that. You hit very, very closely on that by saying that you were going to manage the manage the movement of people and not move the people if they didn't need to be moved. So I really enjoyed the answers. I thought you guys did a great job.
Can I ask a quick question, Adam?
Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
And hopefully it doesn't seem silly, but I know obviously this wouldn't apply to older buildings, but why don't they mandate it that in newer buildings and regardless, I don't know how much it would be, but like having obviously oxygen getting in, people opening doors, windows, the backdraft, as you say, if they had a PA system to make an announcement, the security guard, whoever's handling things, to say, please do not open your doors or windows. The fire department is here, working on, is there not some way of getting some loudspeaker message out to everybody? They may not listen because they panic, but, maybe so, because they might not know it's not good to open their door or the window. I mean, probably some of the nicer buildings have
Many older buildings do not have intercom systems.
No, they don't. But going forward, I'm saying, couldn't they have that in? Because I'm pretty sure they still don't.
That's common going forward. But remember, think about some of these older buildings where it's just not. It's the communication, the voice communication is not an option, and you're right. That's 100% a challenge for us, Julie.
Yeah, that seems to be a big,
I've
even with the Vegas fires.
I've asked them to buy bullhorns and to talk at them.
Yeah.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Like, think about a strip mall. Think about things that do not have those voice activated annunciator panels either. It's tough.
Unless, of course, the electrical goes down and then you can't get that message out. But if there's some sort of backup or generator or something.
There's pretty good backups.
Yeah.
And if this is a retirement home, this is the people with hearing issues and all bunch of issues that may not, even if you had a great intercom system, they wouldn't hear.
What did you say?
Exactly. Well, Tom, or I think Peter was probably born during the year of the 1904 fire in Toronto.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't remember when the Leafs won the Stanley Cup the last time. I'm not that old.
Oh,
that one
57.
Hey, don't be talking there, Tom. I'm pretty sure you were alive when Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked that lantern over to Chicago years ago, too. We're all aging ourselves here. Trust me, I'm getting back pain just sitting in this chair all night. But no, I appreciate everyone's feedback tonight. I really do. Again, really good content when it comes to from high rises to batteries to the infrastructure questions. And again, that's why I enjoy our Fire Mitigation Alliance group training sessions like this, because it's a little bit of a different dynamic than just a bunch of firefighters talking about how to put the wet stuff on the red stuff. It's other things that we really need to think about. It really is.
Yeah.
And any other?
I gotta have a drink because Adam said put the wet stuff on the red.
Of course. Oh, geez, it's how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, listen, everybody. If you do have questions or you want to watch this again, Tom's going to put this on our Fire Mitigation Alliance website as a recorded link. Again, lots of great content there. We'll probably pick some new topics coming up in Q1 of 2026. So if anybody here has any other specialty topics, reach out to us. Again, you can find any of us on Instagram or LinkedIn. Fire Mitigation Alliance is big on LinkedIn. Fire Rain, of course, Dec13 and Firehouse Training. And again, like I said, it's just being able to grow the alliance with different technology that we're seeing and kind of be on the forefront. We will be able to adapt faster here in these group sessions, talking to experts like John and Justin and Eric and others than the local government facilities can. When it comes to interacting or enacting laws and regulations to deal with new fire tactics or strategies for batteries to solar to other energy changes that are happening within the political climate, we need to respond as part of our first response community. So these are where we can have these discussions early, right? In the world of hazmat, the world of high rise, with new technological products and services, like the eco gel. Like we need to understand that it happens slowly from a government regulation standpoint, but we can be on the forefront of it right here through these discussions. And again, a lot of the content I learned, Tom learns, Peter, Justin, is from traveling across not just Canada, but US and the world, seeing how to do things bigger and better outside of this little box that we have in the GTA, right? So that's all we can ask of everybody, is that we continue to come together and just have these discussions in 2026.
And hopefully growing those needs, like we're gonna, everybody knows the different departments and buildings and things like
Yeah,
that. You meet these people and they have a problem of how do they mitigate their risk
that's
and that
true.
sort of stuff. We're great at coming in and being able to have those lunch and learns or whatever those are. Let's educate them, train them, and
Yeah.
or get them the right technology that'll predict and detect fires early. So um, yeah, this has been great. I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
let's I hope everybody has a great holiday and we'll see you in the new year.
Appreciate it, guys. Yeah, happy holidays, everybody. Again, if anyone wants more information on the networking event next week, just message Tom or I will let you know. And then for any aspiring firefighters, this Sunday, we got our last OFAI prep of the year if you want some hands-on skills. So again, reach out to any of us if you have questions, and we'll all be in touch. All right.